So we're going to keep going down this artificial intelligence path. As AI continually ascends into our everyday lives, what should we be doing with it? Right? That's a big question. So we're going to hear from a panel of people that know a thing or two about this. Kelly Nyland is the head of marketing for spectacles at Snap Inc. Sabri Sansoy is the CEO and roboticist at Orchanic. I love this name. It's organic and mechanic combined. Orchanic. Also, remember, tweet and his lights on his shirt will change color. And Todd Terrazas, the co-founder and CEO of Brainitch. These are cool names. You guys just shoved all these words together. And they're going to be joined by moderator Dustin Callif, the managing partner at Tool of North America, for a discussion about the creative capabilities with AI and how it can push the envelope and open doors for the industry.
Okay, it's party time. So we all wanted to get together, and I think this kind of dovetails perfectly on what you just saw before, and leveraging AI for creativity. And first off, I think when thinking about putting together this panel, AI can do a lot of different things, and probably throughout the day we've been able to hear from people talking about the utility. It can be used in the medicine industry. It can be used in a lot of different industries. But we're here at Steelhead to talk about how AI can be used for advertising, and I think it's a creative-driven industry. That's what we sell. It's all based on the big idea. And today we want to have a panel discussion around what are different ways that AI can be leveraged to allow us to make better advertising. And that may be fickle. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we can use AI for. But we want to talk about how we can use it for the creative industry that is a part of what drives advertising. So when putting this together, I don't want to say I necessarily thought about this, but it came up in my mind where I'm going to categorize each person, sort of like, remember in the Breakfast Club, there was the jock, the nerd, the princess, the criminal. I'm not saying we have each one of those, but in thinking about how we're going to put this together, we have Sabri, who's a roboticist and technologist who's been deeply entrenched in building, not only robots, but also has worked at Deutsch, does a lot of work with Tool as an artist with Tool, and has done a lot using AI in smart ways for pushing advertising.
Oh, that's smart.
We'll say it's smart. And then we have Kelly, who is kind of our marketer and has had a chance to lead at Sphero, coming out with the BB-8 droid, and has been at Snap leading spectacles, and is now getting ready to start off on a brand new adventure that I don't know if we'll be able to talk about or not, but in other words, been able to think about how to market AI products to consumers. And then we have Todd, who we're really excited to have because he actually leads. I would say he's our socialist or community manager, in the sense that he leads one of the biggest AI community meetups in LA. It's called AI LA, and as well as being an entrepreneur himself. So with all that said, we wanted to kind of bring back all these different backgrounds to kind of have this discussion. So I'm going to start, and I know it's been hit on a little bit, but I wanted to start with Sabri and the rest of the crew on just demystifying AI just a little bit. I feel like we have to start there. There's so many different categories and things that people mean by that, and you're deeply entrenched in AI, and I'm curious from your point of view, what does AI really mean?
Well, first of all, yeah, I'm a Deutscher. Yeah, again, Winston Bench, because of him, this is why I'm sitting here today. So I don't know if he's here. Anyway, yeah, so AI, so my first project was at Deutsch doing AI. They came up to me with this VW project can you control a virtual car with your voice? And I said, I don't think there are text there. And they said, well, we already sold it to Volkswagen. You're going to have to make it happen. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I reached out to my colleagues at MIT and Stanford, and this concept called deep learning that I think everyone knows about now. So we had a whole team just collecting sounds of people making car sounds like vroom, vroom. Let me get back to your artificial intelligence question, sorry, because I'm digressing. So AI, so Andrew Ng, I don't know if you know him, he was a teacher at Stanford and also Google and then Baidu, and now just started a new company. But he says AI is the new electricity. So think back when electricity was first invented, people didn't know what to do with this, how to use it. So he's saying that's what we're experiencing today. So AI originally, I think it's been mentioned a couple times, was originally coined in the 50s to mean a machine that can reason, learn, take action, judge, and then under that category, there's about 30 plus subcategories. Machine learning, computer vision, robotics, IoT, and on and on. Even religion. Religion's getting big right now. So that's pretty much where when I hear AI being thrown out, yeah, we do AI, we do machine learning, we do robotics. You're actually doing machine learning and robotics under the AI umbrella. So that's what.
Cool.
Sorry for the winded.
No worries. I'm used to it. Kelly, I wanted to ask you just a starter question. As far as you've had an opportunity to market, spectacles and BB-8 and other, kind of Internet of Things and AI-driven devices. When you've been coming up with the marketing campaigns to promote these to consumers, how are you communicating the AI aspect of what's driving the kind of behind-the-scenes technology?
That's a good question. I'm not.
Yeah.
Really, the idea of, I've had the experience of launching almost 60 emerging tech products, and there's only a few that have been really hero products and have led categories, starting with actually the drone in 2010, first consumer grade drone to hit the market. And I would say the approach is always a playful one. It really is this intention to create curiosity and to foster that discovery process, because it's really the best way to get people interested in something that eventually will become digestible, but just isn't. So really, in a really simple way, I think about how do you partner the technology to create something that's really playful.
And have you found, though, that you don't even want to use the words artificial intelligence in any of the marketing?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to find a proxy. Find something that, learn the tools that are available to you within AI, figure out how they actually add value and bring something that you're looking to add a bit forward, so pull the future forward with that skill. And then, make sure that you've wrapped value around whatever it is that you're trying to offer the consumer. Because if you do that, the experience will really deliver on itself.
No, that's great. Well, I think that's a great insight. You're one of the few people who's had an opportunity to do it as much as you have. Todd, I wanted to ask you, in running AI LA, out of curiosity, out of the makeup of that group, how many people do you find that are actually dabbling in using their skills for the advertising industry?
For advertising, for the advertising world, I haven't found as many. We've been focusing on a lot of different tiers of, from everything from education to transportation, and then to entertainment. So how are they using AI in virtual reality and building new worlds with virtual reality? So I believe that we have never talked about specifically advertising, but definitely a lot of creatives show up and participate, because it's basically we're developing an open discussion, open platform for discussion and engagement around how AI can be leveraged in a number of different possibilities. But definitely advertising is one that is of interest to a lot of people, but you guys should be showing up more to our events.
And truly, some of you should attend. They're roughly, once a month?
Once a month,
and
we're actually
to kind of get immersed in the industry.
Yeah, and we're going to be starting to do more through media as well. So weekly engagements through newsletters, basically be having thematic, each month having a different theme. So we really have a really good discussion throughout the month with an end event to really consolidate it all.
Okay, so I was going to ask a question. We'll do a little role playing here. If you were a CMO and you had to build your team so that you could properly brief your team on, it's even analyzing whether or not AI is something that you would want to leverage for one of your campaigns, how would you go ahead about building your team?
You're asking?
I'm asking the group.
I'm strictly a CTO, so I'm going to pass this on to you.
I take a very avant-garde approach to building teams. I'm always looking for diversity of thought, diversity of background. And I think that building a very well-rounded and sort of depth and breadth at the same time So usually that comes with industry background. It comes with a mix of both academia and what you might consider a startup culture, hustle. So in my opinion, you have to put a job spec together and you have to put a structure for your team, but then what happens is you meet humans. And those humans don't necessarily match the text or the words on that page. So it's for me, a very organic process. How you go about using AI is really about getting the smartest people you can on your team. You try to hire smarter people than you are, especially in the disciplines that they happen to have a passion for and really love.
Right, okay, well, cool. Well, and then as far as, I guess, talking through the process when you've applied any of these to creative campaigns, can you just talk through a little bit of, like, for example, you've worked on some of those Toyota projects that were up on screen, and what was your process? How was it different than what you found in other creative campaigns?
Yeah. Please bring these awesome ideas. And just most of the time, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? But like you said, you get a good team together, do a lot of research, do due diligence. I've got a request one time to bring back a person. She was text messaging. She died in a car accident, and they asked me to bring her back in some sort of digital form. And so I'm just going through my process. So at the time, this technology from Google called WaveNet, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, I can capture your voice with about 10 minutes of you talking. So now I can replicate this person's voice, and it doesn't quite sound like her yet, but the text coming there. So it's just researching the tools that are out there and trying to meet the goal with the clients. I myself have got burned a few times because there's this new tech, not quite ready for prime time production. So we've had some challenges with that, but I think what was mentioned earlier, just do it and fail, and then you'll find out some other stuff that you can use, and that's pretty much the process.
But how do all of you feel about that? Because again, I hate to go back to the CMO, but the CMO, it's too risky for them to fail, at least on a big ad campaign. They can fail as an experiment if it's set up that way. But how would you communicate to a CMO, like either it's okay or is it just using Watson and other super proven, I hate to say even super proven, but proven technologies that are not going to fail?
Yeah, that's tough because this space is changing so fast. What we did for VWR about 2.5 years ago, all that tech, gone, right? Deep learning at the time, so we had to collect all the images. Today, there's this thing called transfer learning, so I can take an existing brain from like Google called the Inception and just train a few hundred images on top of that. And now I have this perfectly trained brain that recognizes stuff. That was as of 2 weeks ago. Now everything's on its head with what's called capsule networks. And so we're going to be hearing more about that. So everything you thought about deep learning, throw out the window. And then another team out of MIT came up with this process called Bayesian program synthesis. Their claim is you don't need GPUs, and you can just train on very few set of images. So this is my problem, right? I see all this tech, and so I went to talk to my CMO and tried to sell them, let's use this latest and greatest tech, but it doesn't always work. I'd say maybe 8 out of 10 times it doesn't work, so you have to figure out how to, it's hard because things are changing so fast.
I think one of the tipping points, especially engaging with agencies, is where is that tipping point where you're going to be able to turn something that's a really neat idea and sort of like a demo, and there's like novelty, there's a novelty factor, and how are you going to tip that over into allowing anyone that sees that to actually participate in that experience? Because I think for the most part, a lot of innovation, and especially with AI, it's very much used on the surface utility level. And that's, again, where this like playful approach can give a lot of space and room to the technology, give it an opportunity to fail without actually failing. A good example is, let's see if this will work. Sorry, what does the fox say?
I'm not sure I understand.
Is Jon Snow dead?
You know what they say, what is dead may never die. Though I'm pretty sure most of the people who said that are now dead.
So I wish that Apple would have launched Siri with that type of experience, because it would have built a lot of room into a very sophisticated technology years ago, and given it a lot of room and a lot of creative space and exploration. And eventually, someone did figure that out from a design perspective and build in hundreds of interesting things that you can now go ask Siri, and she will give you clever answers for. But that's really the intention behind creativity. And I heard a lot of questions today about, will we be overtaken? We will never be overtaken if we decide to partner these technologies and figure out where we start and they begin, or how we overlap, and just really embracing it.
No, that's a really good point. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so in my company, Brainitch, we were developing, rapidly prototyping a lot of different types of chatbots for a number of different types of clients. And definitely what we realized is that it was just so too early. So definitely I would consider that as a fail. Not because, maybe we failed, but because it just was the technology. Consumers were not there yet to really understand why they would be using it, besides just that one-time use and then never use it ever again. And I feel like, a lot of the agencies out here, they just need to start just at least testing things in real environments to see how real consumers are using it, and not just in test rooms or just, in back rooms, but really testing out a number of different types of options, not just chatbots, like the things we were seeing on today, but just really pushing the boundaries and just not being afraid of failure, because you learn so much through failure that I believe that it's just, just taking those chances can really pay off in the end. And I don't know if most of CMOs are afraid of failing with a big client, but I guess it's how you deal with the PR, the aftermath, right? And how you spin the fact that you failed, but make it into a positive is, I think, the only way we're really going to progress in how we're going to educate the audiences about how AI can be leveraged for better entertainment and utility.
Right. Well, it's interesting. You mentioned chatbots, and I think most of us probably always think of chatbots as setting it up with, natural language processing, and you're seeing how well it's for a customer service agent or whatever. I did find it interesting when I was talking to you earlier that you've been using chatbots not necessarily as a two-way communication between a bot and a person, but rather to listen and analyze what two people are saying to better inform. And I think those are some of the smart ways that we might be able to use AI now in better informing what we could do creatively.
Exactly, because most people are going to think that the chatbot's going to be able to talk back to them, like Cortana or like Siri potentially, right? Or any of these, how Hollywood depicts, AI assistants. But what we believe is that we should be listening more, right? Be better listeners, understand how people actually communicate more, and then later down the road, be able to then make that more powerful type of AI, assistant or whatever you're building, but based off the language used by your actual consumers, not by just, copywriters in the back room thinking that they're writing great, great lines of dialogue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, so going back, I just want to talk a little bit about, getting one of these projects off the ground, and again, thinking about creatively. You were starting to talk about it, but I guess there's a couple things. There's one, training, the brain or, the AI to help better inform a creative piece. Like, have any of you had to deal with some of your projects where you've had to, have a brain trained that's kind of learning about a given brand or a consumer audience or whatever it is to inform the creative?
I mean, yeah, I have. What's interesting to me, doing this for 2.5 years now, I can give each of your companies a data set, and then ask you to find insights in that data set. I guarantee you, every one of you will have a different view of that data set, even though it's the same. So that to me is an interesting problem, or I don't know if it's a problem, but I find that a fascinating dynamic.
I can share just one example. So at Spectacles, we were looking to create an easier process for how you edit your film, essentially, or video down into a highlights reel, because that's something that's pretty labor intensive. So we created an interestingness algorithm out of over 10,000 different images that were rated by humans. And so when your content, video content, syncs automatically from your spectacles to your Snapchat memories, it actually creates a highlight reel, and I found it to be 9 times out of 10 exactly what I would have created as a highlights reel. So if you upload 100 pieces of content, it will choose somewhere around the 8 to 10 most interesting pieces that tell a comprehensive story, and then you can go in and edit that highlight. So in my opinion, that's something is a really great example about how you're using image processing to create a real value for someone. Obviously, time is one of the most important commodities that we are trying to really leverage and build value around with technology. So that's an example that really stands out as meaningful, in my opinion.
I just want to be cognizant of time. Is our time up?
So time's up.
It says that it is.
Okay, well, I guess we don't get to go into the, well, let me ask the 2 rapid-fire questions, just yes or no. Is, can you have a real conversation with the chatbot?
No.
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 Should a data scientist be a part of a creative team?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Okay, thank you, everyone.